Is knitting cool now? Or, if it's not exactly cool, is it at least trendy, stylish, or growing in popularity? When you think of cool hobbies, you probably picture skateboarding, surfing, photography, maybe playing the guitar. Knitting and crochet are not exactly the first things that come to mind. But things are changing. Today's knitting scene looks very different than it did even a decade ago. With increased media coverage, fashion collaborations, celebrity involvement, and more young knitters picking up needles around the world, knitting might just be having its next big cultural moment. Now I'm going to take my bonnet off because I'm getting rather warm. Just to be clear, I don't claim to be cool. I'm actually a massive geek. I love video games, Dungeons and Dragons, and all that goodness. But I do love fashion, and I like to stay aware of the trends more for curiosity than anything else. Making your own clothes and accessories seems to be stepping into the spotlight. From making friendship bracelets to trade at concerts, all the way up to crocheting or knitting your own wedding dress, handmade fashion is becoming aspirational. And knitting, crocheting, sewing, all that goodness has become a desirable skill to have. One of the main things that caught my attention recently was Damson Madder, which is my favorite eco-conscious clothing brand, did a collaboration with Wool and the Gang. You've probably heard of their crazy, sexy wool. They recently launched 2 knit-it-yourself kits. One is a bonnet and one is a rugby-style top. Both items are pretty trend-forward for this winter. Suddenly, it's easier than ever to recreate something you may have otherwise bought off the rack. And you get the added satisfaction of having made it yourself. Knitting is inherently slow fashion. It can take days, weeks, months, even years to make something. And I think people tend to take more care of and repair things that they've made by hand. Could collaborations with even bigger designers happen? Possibly, but perhaps part of knitting's appeal is the fact that you're making these individually crafted items, often with indie patterns or perhaps a design you've come up with yourself. I've also noticed that fast fashion retailers like Urban Outfitters and Zara are releasing pieces that look hand to knit. They're unmistakably embracing the perfectly imperfect fabrics of hand knitted designs. So even if someone isn't interested or doesn't have the time to knit their own items, it does seem that the look of DIY knits is fashionable again. While it might feel a bit strange as a knitter, I think it does show that the desire for hand knits is currently there, whether or not it's actually handmade or not. Knitting's also making its way from Instagram to the television. This very weekend, Olympic champion Tom Daley will be hosting The Game of Wool, a competitive knitting show where a cast of knitters will be competing knitting challenges each week. For context, the most recent Great British Sewing Bee final drew 4.3 million UK viewers, and Great British Bake Off finals often reach over 8 million. If The Game of Wool gets anywhere near those numbers, perhaps knitting will be about to enter the mainstream in a whole new way. Unlike in the past, where the online knitting community often existed quietly in blogs or hard-to-find forums, today they're thriving on mainstream social media platforms. The Knittok hashtag reached over 1 billion views in 2024. I think that's a clear sign of global engagement and curiosity. There are now dozens of successful knitfluencers across YouTube and Instagram. These are creators who attract large followings by sharing their makes, hosting knit-alongs, and perhaps modelling their knitted pieces in a similar way that fashion influencers do. All this online activity has transformed knitting into a creative subculture that you can belong to. Knitting's also attracting a more diverse audience. Designers like Knit are creating modern, trendy, and playful patterns aimed at younger makers. More men are also picking up the needles now. According to the UK Hand Knitting Association, over a quarter of their website members are now men. This compares to just 10% pre-pandemic. Some data points to participation among Black and ethnic minority groups to also be on the rise, from roughly 10% in 2014 to 17% in 2018. I think that social media has contributed to making the community feel more inclusive. Anyone who wants to create is welcome, which helps knitting feel relevant to a new generation. There's been a lot of discussion about the need for real hobbies. Things that aren't just about posting content or doom scrolling, but something more creative, tactile, and fulfilling. I think knitting fits this perfectly. It's creative, it's hands-on, you get a piece of clothing that you'll be able to wear or gift at the end of it. It's meditative, and it aligns with the slow fashion movement. Knitting has also been getting celebrity attention. Tom Daley, of course, knits famously poolside at the Olympics, but others too. From Ryan Gosling, Kirsten Ritter, and Sarah Jessica Parker have all shared their love of knitting online. When celebrities share their interest in something typically uncool, it can help to shift public perception. There's also been a few viral fashion moments. For example, the Harry Styles J.W. Anderson cardigan inspired a trend to crochet your own version. Taylor Swift has also been seen in a number of crochet pieces, driving people to try to recreate their own versions. These things spread fast on social media, and suddenly making things with yarn doesn't seem quite so old-fashioned. And I'm not just going off vibes here, the statistics do seem to back up the global resurgence of knitting. In the US, the Craft Yarn Council estimated that 28.8 million people either crocheted or knitted in 2015, and that number has now grown to about 45 million. And according to Business Research Insights, the global knitting yarn market stood at $4.7 billion in 2024 and is projected to reach $7.1 billion by 2023. That's about a 4.5% growth per year. The Google search results for the topics of knitting and crochet show a steady increase for UK users. Meanwhile, worldwide we can see that since the pandemic in 2020, it's holed out at a steady level. The US has done something interesting whereby crochet has really overtaken knitting, but either way, it seems that both are more popular than they were in 2018. So yes, I think knitting is objectively more popular than it was a decade ago. So why now? I think there's a few reasons for the rise. Sustainability and slow fashion for a start. More people care about how clothes were made, what fibres were used, and whether something will actually last. Fast fashion might give instant gratification, but is often poor quality and environmentally damaging. Knitting, whether you do it yourself or by supporting independent makers, offers a sustainable, traceable alternative. Another contributing factor could be the popularity of upcycling and customization. Fashion commentators like Katie Robinson have noticed that upcycled clothes are among the biggest trends right now. Knitting taps straight into that. You're knitting something one of a kind after all, and the skills you learn along the way can help you to fix your knit when you get those inevitable holes or tears. Last but not least is mindfulness and self-care. Younger generations are more vocal about needing screen downtime and hobbies that positively support their mental health. Knitting, crochet, and other crafts provide that sense of calm and accomplishment as well. Another big part about why knitting's thriving right now is the community. Online, there's a space for everyone, whether you're following pattern designers on Instagram, joining Discourse, or just scrolling TikTok to learn a new stitch. It's never been easier to find people with your exact same niche interests. And that matters, especially for people who, like me, don't have people in their real life who get excited about a yarn haul or a finished sleeve. Offline knitting groups are seeing a quiet resurgence too. Libraries, cafes and yarn shops are continuing to host regular knit nights, which is a big deal in a time where loneliness is a growing issue. So while social media may have helped the occasional knitted jumper go viral, the staying power comes from those communities. People making, sharing and connecting together. But is it actually cool? Well, here's where it might get tricky. Although knitting seems to be getting more popular, does it necessarily have that cool edge? I think coolness has always been a bit about rebellion, doing something unexpected or against the grain. And in that sense, there is a counterculture aspect to knitting now. Some knitters are trying to reclaim it, something that was once a domestic, quiet hobby, into a statement of individuality, sustainability, or even activism. Maybe knitting's new cool isn't about being edgy, but more about being authentic. I don't think knitting's ever going to fall into fad territory, like dealy boppers or galaxy leggings. It's too timeless, too meaningful. It has deep cultural roots and tangible value. But at the end of the day, whether it's charity knitting, political activism, fighting fast fashion, or people simply finding the joy in the creativity of making and wearing your own clothing, that's cool to me. So let me know what you think. Is knitting actually cool now, or is it just enjoying its 15 minutes of fame? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you'll think about subscribing if you've enjoyed this video. Have a good one. Bye.